So you admit that he converted.
I didn't say anything about whether he was converted or not.
So the fact that so let's talk about what we have here. Let's talk about the evidence. We have a Rashi.
We have a Rashi saying that Yitro was a convert.
He says that Beferish Rashi was a help me out. That Yisro was a convert.
Right.
You have no one to argue against that other than what?
The plain text of the Bible.
The Bible, which we've discussed before at length, and we've weighted down all these talks. We talked about this at length last week. That the Bible on its own is not Judaism.
I didn't say that Judaism doesn't say Yitro.
You know what your problem is? Your problem is you look at the Bible and you say that is Judaism.
I've never said the Bible
and
is
then
Judaism.
Words on the side from the commentators or the Talmud is nice to know, but it's not binding because it's strictly man-made. But these words in the middle, for some reason, have so much weight. It's as if God brought down this book from the mountain. And this is what the Jews follow, is these words that are in the Bible. And everything else on the side is merely rabbinic. Pooh, I have my own rabbi. His name is Dennis Prager. He's on 3 o'clock weekdays. Right?
I never said anything remotely like that. I am curious what the Torah, as in the 5 books of Moses, has to say. And then I also want to know what the rabbinic commentaries have to say. And as far as what I may do or not do, such as, can I play musical instruments on Shabbat? Because
we talked about that.
Let me make this point.
Okay.
So, going by the Bible, sure, I can play musical instruments on Shabbat. But as I am an Orthodox Jew who goes in Orthodox synagogues, belongs to an Orthodox community, I do not play musical instruments on Shabbat because the leading rabbis of my tradition for the past 2,000 years have forbade that. So even though I think they're wrong, I observe that because I believe that their rulings are binding. I do not believe necessarily that their rulings are divine, but I believe that they're binding. So what Rashi has to say about the Torah text is very interesting. I don't regard it as divine, but when it comes to halacha, what I may do and not do, then that is determined by the rabbis over the past 2,000
years. Okay, let's just break this down. Do you believe in the Masorah?
Yes.
You do believe in the Masorah?
Yes, I believe
And if I was to tell you that the Masorah is that Yisro was a ger, what do you do with that?
I don't believe everything in the Masorah is divine.
No. Do you believe in the Masorah? Let's try this again.
I believe in the Masorah.
If I was to tell you that the idea that Yisro was a ger is part of our Masorah, it's established and it's accepted as our Masorah, as Rashi wrote down, will you accept that therefore Yisro is a ger?
No.
So you do not accept the words in the Masorah?
I do not accept every single word of the Masorah as being divine.
I didn't ask you if it was divine. I said, do you accept...
I do not accept every single word of the Masorah being binding.
You don't accept the Masorah?
I don't accept every single word of the Masorah.
Do you think it's okay to argue against the Masorah?
Okay, as far as how you can behave, like, if... That's a very good question. As I'm a person with very little responsibility. Like if I had a synagogue and I was the rabbi, I'd be very much more circumspect than what I had to say. Me, just a blogger, discussing the Torah portion, I feel much more room to argue with the Masorah. Yeah.
You argue against the Masorah?
I will argue with the Masorah.
You argue against. There's no argue with.
Sure, I can argue with.
You argue against the Masorah.
Well, much of the Masorah is arguing with each other.
If I tell you that the Masorah says X, and it's been accepted by every Jew who follows the Masorah, and that is established, and it's accepted, but it doesn't fit in with Levi's way of thinking, will you argue against the entire established Masorah?
In certain times, yeah. But as I mentioned, I'm not.
That's all. I don't need to comment further. I don't need to comment further. I will just tell the viewers the following: we have an established Masorah,
which means tradition,
which is a tradition. When everyone in the Jewish who follows Torah follows a certain established tradition as what the Torah says, that's an established fact
foundation, core principle of Judaism. To argue against it means to argue against Judaism. It means I don't accept the Masorah. One of the core traditions, core principles of Judaism is to accept it as it was presented from generation to generation until now. That's all I need to say. If you want to argue against it, that's fine. So you're basically saying, I'm arguing against accepted Judaism. And I don't need to argue. We get it.
Yeah, at times I'll be arguing against accepted Judaism.
We get it. I call that ignorance and heresy. You call it...
I don't know what to call it.
You
But
call
I
it...
do it.
Then that's fine. Just so the viewers know, don't confuse what he says with Judaism. Okay, let's go to the next thing.
I want to make another point related to that. So I have a friend who davens exclusively in Orthodox shawls, and I believe he has a day school education. And he believes that riding a bike on Shabbat is okay. Now, I don't know the different perspectives. I don't know the rabbinic literature on riding a bike on the Shabbat, but I do know that it's accepted by the rabbis that I know of that you should not do this. So, however eloquent he may be in his defense of riding a bike on Shabbat, I would not do that, because the rabbis have said no. So again, I would not go out and play a musical instrument. I'm talking in public. You know, what I may do sinfully in the privacy of my own apartment, again, is something else. There's a big distinction between public and private. So even though I think, you know, the rabbis and the Masorah are wrong in this or that halacha, if that is the norm of my community, I am not going to transgress that halacha.
Okay, I didn't say that you ever transgressed anything.
No. I'm
saying
not...
that your core principles and your understanding of Judaism is very perverted, and it's disturbing, and it's unfortunate. And I will say this, and you're going to hate me. It's unfortunate that this wasn't filtered and caught when you were converted, because this is very core principle that you don't understand, and you don't understand how Judaism works, and what you think is Judaism is not. Well,
No.
do you understand what I'm saying? You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, you've made the point many times.
Okay.
So what I was saying was not an argument with what you were saying. It was an elaboration on my own approach to Jewish law, to living within an Orthodox community, and also struggling and arguing with the tradition at times.
How do we get into all this? I forgot. Go on.
We get into
Because you
this-
don't think Yitro is a convert.
Yeah, I don't believe that Yitro is a
And that's fine.
convert.
So there's two opinions. There's Judaism. There's Rashi, who brings down, the Masorah, the tradition that went all the way back to Sinai, that clearly Yisro was the first convert. And there's Prager, and there's Reform temples, and there's Luke Ford, who say that, you don't have to listen to that because it's a biblical religion.
I didn't say anything about not listening to Rashi or not listening to the tradition.
They're not
I said,
divine.
I said I don't believe Rashi's divine. I don't believe that the Amoraim are divine. I do believe that they're part of a binding tradition as far as our behavior goes, but I don't believe that what a rabbi said in 5th century Babylon is divine.
You know what's ironic here? I don't know if you've seen it. I don't know if irony is the word. It's inconsistent. It's a glaring inconsistency. You earlier said that we don't paskin, we don't decide halacha by opening up a Talmud. Did you not?
I said that's not the only determination.
Did you not
for
say
halacha.
that? Did you not say that? Yes or no? Did you say that? Because I'm in the middle of a thing. You said we don't paskin out of the Talmud. You can't just open up a Talmud, read it.
Yeah.
No, okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to say
Read a
we
tradition.
don't paskin out of the Chumash.
That's true too.
Okay? When people go to sit down and learn the Bible, they don't say, I'm going to go learn Torah. They said, I'm going to go learn the Chumash. The 5 books of Moses are called the Chumash. It comes from the word Chamesh, which means 5 in Hebrew. That's what you're going to learn. If someone wants to learn the Chumash, just learn what the Pesukim says. He's learning the Chumash. And you should not learn it without the oral Torah along with it. Okay? So it's assumed you're going to learn it with the oral